Hello, my name is Peter Landino. I'm going to take over the next few modules for Professor Steve Moore, and we are going to cover in this module how to do in-text citing. There are several ways to do in-text citing in your paper. What we're going to do is cover the page numbers 226 to 228 and page 230 in the Keys for Writers. First off, if you look on page 226, it's separated into two columns. You get a chart that matches how the source would appear in your paper on the left, along with how the source is listed on the reference page in your right-hand column. Now, the right-hand column is what we talk about in the next module when we put together a reference page. So please disregard that side as we go through these. In the first column of items on page 226, these are your in-text citings in a variety of different versions. Be aware that in each of the examples we talk about, the author's name and the date of the author's work is mandatory to list in your citing. And by the citing we mean those highlighted portions there within the parentheses. Also note that where appropriate, a page number is also given. Overall, the purpose for citing your sources as shown is so that the people who read your paper can see the sources that you used. Secondly, these readers can also look up the sources for their own purposes if they see something that they would like more information on. So let's proceed through the examples. In the first example there, the book citation in parentheses, the written part, the speed at which we live is seen as the cause for concern and derision, is the part that was taken out of the book. So this is information that wasn't yours, that you didn't come up with. This is information you took from your source material, in this case being a book. Now once you cite that, as you see, it's not word for word because it's not in quotations. This is just a paraphrase that you've come up with. You would put after what you've cited the author's last name, comma, and then the date the work was written within the parentheses. And this citation, as it's called, would be before the period. The citations are considered part of your sentence, so your end mark goes after them. Now, as I said, there were a variety of ways to do this. The first example there from the book, if you notice, if you just put that sentence about the speed, we don't know who the author is as we read it. That's why you would put the author's name in the parentheses after the information cited. Now the next one there, it says the author's name introduces the comment. In this case, you have David Crystal has promoted the idea of dialect democracy. In this case, we do know who the author is. Therefore, in your parentheses, you would just put the year of the publication, comma, and if known, you would put the page number. And that's P period, space, and then the page number, in this case 168, with the period then closing out that sentence. Now the difference being is that we know who the author is by how you've written the sentence. Therefore, you don't need to be redundant and put the author's name in the parentheses as well. In the next example, it says print article, author, and year in your text. This is a third way that you can write a citation. And these are really your preference, your style, whatever you like as you put your paper together. In this case, the author's name and the page number are given along with the year. But you see there's a different order of things. If you look at it, according to Jeffrey Kluger, in this case we know the author's name in your sentence, therefore we don't have to put it in parentheses. And in this case, the writer decided to put the date after the author's name, which is also a different way you can do it, and it's fine. They're all these ways are correct to do it. It's totally up to your style that you want to put it together. In this case, then, after you put your quotation or your paraphrase that you've cited, then at the end you just put the P and the page number, in this case page 59, in the parentheses. The reason to just put the page number is because we already know the author and we also already know the date of the material that you've cited. The second example in that blue of the print article, author and year in your text, they actually did it another way, where they put the author's name and then in parentheses following it, the date and the page number. So therefore, once at the end of the quote, once you get to that point, there's no reason to put any parentheses at the end. All of these ways are correct. All of them are available to you depending on your style. The last example here is at the top of page 227, and this is when you document a website. In this case, since there are no page numbers on a website, even if you print the pages out of a website you're looking at, that does not mean they match up to the pages when you actually look on it on your computer. So therefore, anytime you cite anything from a website, as noted here, all you have to do is put the author's last name and the date of the copyright that the material was written. And in this case, it says Hempel, and they put the 2008 right after his name. The other way you could do this one is if you put the 2008 in the parentheses after young users. So that would be after users within the period part of the sentence. If you look at the examples on 14b, these are just a variety of ways that we looked at already, just given to you in more detail. Letter A shows you the author is named in your writing. So you have Wilson has described in detail his fascination with insects, and the year is given after his name. Remember that you can also put the year at the end of the sentence if you'd like it instead. It's completely your choice. In letter B, the example with the army retreated from Boston, there is no naming the author in that sentence. Therefore, as it's shown there, the author is at the end, within the parentheses, comma, with the year of the material that was written. The letter C is any time that an author is quoted or paraphrased and there's a known page number for it. So in this case, with the memories are built sentence, we don't know who the author is, we don't know what the date of the material is, and we don't know the page number. Therefore, in your parentheses at the end of that sentence, you would put the author's last name, comma, the date, comma, and then the pagementation. In this case, P, period, space, and the page number it came from. The last one listed here is D, and this is with an author when there's more than one author for a work. And what you do in this case here on 228, it turns over to the next page. Same type of idea. You would put both authors that were listed there, either within the sentence before you write it, or if it's unknown who the authors are, then the two authors' names would be put in parentheses with, of course, the date the material was written. The last one to look at is right before letter E here. It's 6 or more authors. You do run into some cases in the material that you'll use where there are more than two authors. Quite often in research this does occur. Make sure you look at this, how many authors you have. As you see there, for 6 or more authors, it says cite the name of only the first author followed by et al. And this is for all citations in your text and in a parenthetical citation. That just tells the reader that there are more authors besides that one, in this case more than 6. The last one here is letter K, and this is the case if you have no author named. So there are times where you won't be able to find an author's name, usually something that you find in a web source. It doesn't mean that it's not a credible source, it doesn't mean that it's not a good source that you can use, it just means that there's not necessarily a specific author that put it together. In the example given there about Hurricane Katrina, you can see that it came from the World Almanac. So there's not necessarily a specific individual author, but it's a group of people who worked on the almanac. In this case, you would put the name of the work itself, so the title of the work, and once again, the same things appear in the parentheses. The author's title, in this case, would be the book, the date that it was written, and then the page numbers that go along with it. And that's the variety of ways you can put together your in-text citing.